leads to very bad health outcomes.
Thank you, Minister. Just by way of anecdote, I talked to someone recently who said that they estimated that they've spent to date over $100,000 out of pocket, having to pay for syringes and needles and test strips and the medication that they need. Minister, turning to school nutrition, in the last election, both the NDP and the Liberal parties pledged $1 billion to create a national school food program. But according to recent media reports, the federal government has decided to drop its 2024 deadline to introduce this urgently needed initiative. Given that food insecurity has risen sharply across country, food bank use is at record levels, and as I'm sure you're aware, the crucial role that nutrition plays in children's health, can you confirm if your government plans to follow through on its promise to create a national school nutrition program, and if so, when?
Well, by the nature of our process, I'm as blind to what will be in the budget as anybody else. So I will have to defer to the budget document to know what's there. But I just want to validate, how important school nutrition programs are. And to say that, when I was at Heart and Stroke, being able to see the difference a single healthy meal a day has to children's health is incredibly powerful. It's not just powerful in that moment for that kid. It then allows them to develop a connection with healthy food, a palate for healthy food, and can be transformative for their entire life. And I think one of the things we're talking about diabetes earlier, another conversation that we really have to have as a country is nutrition and the disastrous effects of highly processed food and sugars on our health. And if we're going to really deal with health, we've got to be upstream, and certainly we have to be dealing with nutrition and the ill effects of sugar.
Absolutely. Thank you, Minister. Yeah, we heard some very profound testimony to that effect at the committee when we were studying children's health. Turning to nicotine products, experts across Canada have expressed serious concern about Zonic, that's flavored nicotine pouches from Imperial Tobacco that recently hit Canadian shelves. Disturbingly, this product was approved by Health Canada without any age barriers or restrictions on how it can be advertised or sold. We're seeing it pop up in convenience stores across the country, supported by marketing and flavors that appear to target youth. We've seen BC and Quebec take action. Minister, you've said publicly that you felt duped by the tobacco industry and you pledged a major crackdown. Can you confirm what action your government is planning to take and precisely when that may begin?
Well, thank you so much. Look, we want innovation in the space of cessation. We want innovative ideas to get people off of tobacco. It's still the number one cause of preventable death in this country. It is a horrible scourge, and tobacco companies internationally have utilized techniques that are reprehensible. So what happened here is they used that portal where we want to see innovation for cessation to pretend they were doing something about cessation. And then what you see comes out is something that doesn't match it. So I'm seeking a couple of different authorities. One is to restrict flavors to what is only necessary and logical for the purposes of cessation. In the second order, I'm seeking authority to have marketing plans shown for products that are for cessation to ensure that they comport with the approved intended use of the product before it goes out, so that we don't see the circumstances you're talking about. And in the third order, with respect to nicotine pouches, because they've already, unfortunately, in their treacherous behavior, have addicted a whole cohort of people who had no exposure to nicotine before. That they've addicted a whole cohort of young people to this product. It's my belief that it needs to be moved behind counter. That's already happened in BC. That's already happened in Quebec. But I think we have to be part of the solution to see that happen writ large across the country. So it's not just about these tobacco pouches. It's about what they did in vaping, and it's about making sure that this the legitimate space for innovation and cessation is never abused again in this kind of perverted way.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you, Mr. Davies. Next, Mr. Cooper, please, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Minister, I presume you've read the Winnipeg lab documents?
That's correct.
Okay. And I have as well, so perhaps you can help me with something. Can you point to exactly where in the documents it states that no sensitive information left the lab?
So I think that if you're talking about, at any time what went into or out of the Winnipeg lab, it's clear that nothing left or entered the lab.
Minister, I'm asking you to point to where it states in the documents that no sensitive information left the lab, because you stated at your February 28th press conference, immediately following the release of the documents, that you were absolutely certain, and you will see it from the documents, that no sensitive information left the lab. That is contradicted. That is at odds completely with the conclusion in the PHAC report with respect to Dr. Chu that stated, quote, sensitive information and assets were shared outside PHAC. So why did you state the opposite of what you had to have known was the truth?
What I was stating, and I think it's important that we not be hyperbolic about this, and that we be rooted in truth. And the circumstance with these two Canadian citizens who, very disappointingly, in a way that one
You
couldn't
said
have
I'm
expected.
absolutely-
Mr. Cooper,
don't
you
know.
took almost a minute to pose the question. You interrupted him after about 12 seconds. Finish your answer, Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I think in the first order, we were in a very different time at that moment in time where we were collaborating specifically on virology and thought we had a better partner and weren't aware of the extent to which the Chinese government would have been involved in trying to influence domestic affairs.
Minister, you
and
said
two Canadian
you were
citizens,
absolutely
I think I got
certain,
about
and you
12
will
seconds
see it
there.
from the documents, that no sensitive information left the lab. So where in the documents does it state that? Where? Because I just quoted from the documents, and it states the opposite of what you said.
Okay, so I guess I get about half or a quarter of the time that they get to ask the question. Well, that's your characterization. I think that they're, look, I understand the effort.
Minister, can you also maybe help me with something else? Can you point to where in the documents it states that the scientists didn't work with the Beijing military?
I think
On
that,
what page?
Okay, so what I'm concerned about, and you've read the documents and I've read the documents, and there were concerning things that happened there. There's no question that are unacceptable. These eminent scientists who were Canadian citizens lied to us about their engagements. That's deeply disturbing.
Minister,
but
you
I think
said
in a hyperbolic
that you made
way,
that
well,
statement
Mr. Chair, okay,
unequivocally in your press conference. And again, if you've read the documents, which you claim you have, it states very clearly that the scientists collaborated with the Beijing military, including the highest medical research institution in the People's Liberation Army, and that Dr. Chu collaborated with Beijing's chief biological weapons defense expert in areas of biodefense and bioterrorism. And yet you said that they didn't collaborate with the Beijing military. How is it possible that you could have said that when you had to have known that the opposite was true? Why were you spreading disinformation?
I don't know. Maybe I'll get 5 seconds to, so we'll see how much I'm allowed to say before I'm given the opportunity. First of all, I think that it is incredibly dangerous to play games with national security and to mischaracterize what were very unfortunate events. I don't believe your characterization is at all accurate or representative of what's in the documents. I believe it's hyperbolic. I believe its intention is part of it.
Minister, I quoted you,
Sorry,
and
Mr.
I quoted
Cooper.
the documents.
No, Mr. Cooper, he's about halfway through. Go ahead.
I believe your characterization is hyperbolic, not representative of facts. I think you are seeking to extract partisan advantage from a matter of national security. These were Canadian citizens who were eminent scientists who lied to PHAC and who worked in the area of virology. Now, you would know as well as I know that in China, every aspect.
Thank you, Minister. This is your last question, Mr. Cooper.
Think you were going to get away with spreading disinformation. Either you didn't read the documents and you're not on top of your brief, or you were spreading disinformation in a pathetic attempt to further the cover-up of this massive national security breach that happened under your government's watch. Which is it?
Minister, you have 30 seconds and you won't be interrupted. We're past time. Go ahead.
Well, and I think the truth is, and frankly, it's evident in the way that you posed your question, that your interest is a partisan interest. Your interest is to play games with matter of national security and not give me the opportunity to contextualize the circumstance. And I think that's unfortunate. And I think that it's unfortunate that we've moved to a place where matters of national security are used as partisan footballs. I think that, yes, it is deeply disturbing that these Canadian citizens who were eminent scientists behaved the way that they did.
Thank you,
DHAC
Minister.
acted appropriately. They were fired. There's an investigation that's ongoing.
Thank
and
you.
an attempt to characterize it as some grand
Thank you,
conspiracy
Minister.
is inappropriate.
Thank you, Minister. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Johari, please, for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And let me start by thanking Mr. Lucas for the great work that you've done. Often as politicians, we roll out policies and we stand in front of cameras and microphones and blow our horn, but it's really amazing individuals like you and your team who make sure that these policies are actually translated into benefits for Canadian. And we thank you. Whoever happens to be filling out the shoes that you believing has a great infrastructure under him, but also big shoes to fill. Thank you. Mr. Holland, since you didn't get a chance to really respond, I'll give you as much as time that I have to be able to really respond to the amount of, I believe, misinformation and the narrative that's being built here. And I think you deserve to have the time to be able to set the record clear. Sir, you have as much time that I'm allowed to have. Time is yours, sir.
Thank you so much. So first of all, I think it's important to see how unfortunate the way that this is being played with is, to go back in time. When I was in the Public Safety Committee, we received the reports from Justice O'Connor and Justice Iacobucci, who said that parliamentary oversight of our national security apparatus in all matters of national security was essential. We begged the government of the day to act, to create parliamentary oversight, and to create civilian oversight of the security and intelligence apparatus. The Conservative government of the day refused. And so there's some great irony in the fact that I'm being attacked when the documents that they're talking about would have never come to light. We would have never seen the documents, and nor would we be having the debate if a Conservative government got to continue, because they completely ignored creating those oversight mechanisms. It was when I was House Leader, and at the time members of Parliament said that they wanted to see, and you remember there was ridiculous conspiracies being spun about what was in those redacted documents. And at the time, I said that all parliamentarians, we should have an opportunity to see into it. And somebody made the comment, I can't remember which of the opposition party House leaders it was, that NSI COP wasn't enough because they wouldn't have the ability to challenge the redactions. So it was this government, and I was House Leader at the time, and said that's fair. So let's create a process where those redactions can be challenged by an independent arbiter. And so we had a committee of parliamentarians. We looked at all of the documents, and the arbiters made a decision to waive the normal considerations of privacy that involve employee data so that we could have that information. And I think that's entirely appropriate. So everything that's being discussed, the entire report, and this is what's, I think, positive and unfortunate for the Conservatives. They can now try to spin conspiracies, but there's no more shadows for them to hide in or pretend things that are there. Now you can read the document yourself. And what you will see in those documents is two eminent scientists who are Canadian citizens who lied to the Public Health Agency about interactions that they had, and that those interactions were in the area of virology, and that the attempts to characterize it in some darker or more sinister way, that somehow the government was trying to hide it, when it is in fact the government that is the reason they have the documents, and it was their government that would have shut the door from those documents ever been seen. So it is the height of hypocrisy, because you know what would have happened? The same events would have occurred if you had a Liberal or a Conservative government. These are happening inside of our public health agency. If you believe differently, then you would be believing that the Conservatives in government would reach their hands into the public health agency and decide whether or not they would hire a Canadian citizen who's an eminent scientist and override public health officials who's there. And of course, that's ridiculous. It wouldn't happen. So the same events would have occurred. The only difference